Ever wondered about the origins of common Christmas traditions? Why do people bring evergreen trees into their homes and decorate them with lights and ornaments? Does the Bible provide the answers we seek? Welcome to a journey of discovery, a journey that reveals the lack of biblical basis for the tradition of Christmas trees. The interpretation of Jeremiah 10 verses 3 and 4 from the Bible leaves no room for doubt. Verse 3 states, "For the customs of the peoples are worthless. They cut a tree out of the forest, and a craftsman shapes it with his chisel." This verse is a clear condemnation of the tradition of Christmas trees. The following verse, Jeremiah 10 verse 4, which reads, "They adorn it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and hammers so that it will not totter," further solidifies this interpretation. The phrase "adorn it with silver and gold" directly correlates with the tradition of decorating Christmas trees with sparkling ornaments and lights. These verses form a definitive biblical context condemning the Christmas tree tradition. This verse is a stark warning against idolatry, a practice where people worship crafted images or objects. The verse can be directly linked to the practice of cutting trees from the forest and shaping them into idols for worship, which is strikingly similar to the Christmas tree tradition. Any argument suggesting that this verse isn't directly linked to Christmas trees is flawed. Christmas trees, as we know them today, may have been incorporated into Christmas celebrations centuries after the time of Jeremiah, but that does not negate the biblical condemnation of such practices. Jeremiah's words were a clear denunciation of the idolatrous practices of his time, which are mirrored in the Christmas tree tradition. Modern Christmas celebrations are a glaring example of idolatry, completely opposed to what the Bible stands for. The focus on commercialization, materialistic gift-giving, and the worship of the Christmas tree and decorations are all forms of idolatry, diverging from the true meaning of the season. The emphasis on secular symbols like Santa Claus and reindeer has overshadowed the story of Jesus' birth and the lessons it teaches about love, generosity, and humility. These practices deviate from the true biblical message, turning Christmas into a festival of materialism and idolatry. Many believe that Christmas is a celebration of Jesus' birth. But is there any biblical basis for this belief? Let's delve into this. Firstly, the Bible does not mention the exact date of Jesus' birth. The celebration on December 25th is purely arbitrary. There is no scriptural basis for this date, making the connection between Christmas and the birth of Jesus questionable. Secondly, the tradition of celebrating birthdays itself is not biblical. The Bible does not make any reference to Jesus or his disciples celebrating birthdays. This further weakens the tie between Christmas and Jesus' birth. Thirdly, as we have discussed, the origins of Christmas are rooted in the practices that Jeremiah condemned. If we trace back the history of Christmas, we find it more connected to pagan traditions than to the celebration of Jesus' birth. Finally, celebrating such traditions takes us further from God, as they are not rooted in biblical teachings. They divert our attention from the true message of Christianity and lead us towards idolatry and materialism. In conclusion, the celebration of Christmas and its connection to Jesus' birth is spurious and lacks biblical foundation. It is a practice that Jeremiah condemned and takes us further from God. Instead of focusing on these secular practices, Christians should aim to live according to the teachings of the Bible, focusing on love, generosity, and humility. Jeremiah 10 is a clear condemnation of Christmas trees, seen by some as an anti-Christian abomination. The verse criticizes the practice of cutting trees from the forest and adorning them with decorations, a tradition identical to our modern-day Christmas trees. Christmas, as we celebrate it today, has no direct basis in the Bible, making it a deviation from Christian teachings. Jeremiah 10 encourages Christians to reject practices not rooted in the teachings of the Bible, further emphasizing the illegitimacy of Christmas celebrations. In conclusion, Christmas trees and the celebration of Christmas itself should be shunned, as they lack biblical foundation and are forms of idolatry, straying from the true message of Christianity. This is the only sensible interpretation, making this a compelling and undeniable argument.